Welcome to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright. This show is all about honoring you as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You are here for a reason, and it's no mistake that you are here on earth right now. Spirit has guided you to this very moment in time, so you could hear the messages Pam is about to share with you. She is a multidimensional healer, light language channel, transformation coach, wife and mother, committed to helping you discover the tools and practices to empower you to live the best life you can. You get to choose the spirit path you take. You can connect to the spiritual guidance already all around you. Get ready to live a fully empowered life. This is the Empower Me Show.
Back. This is the Empower Me Show. My name is Pam Bright. I'm your host for this beautiful program that we have been going with for about 2 years now. I can't believe it. It's been a long time. April of 2021 is when we started this program, and we are still going strong, and we are here often with special guests. And my special guest from last week, Joseph, is here again to talk about his journey with the spiritual and the dragon world and the crystal world and inner child world and anything else that comes up for him to talk about today. We are going to go deep into who we are as spiritual beings having human experiences. And I don't think I asked you that question last time, Joseph. So I'm going to ask you that question to start us off. What does it mean to you to be a spiritual being having a human experience?
Oh, indeed. Well, I guess to me at the moment, what comes up is it means a newfound faith in yourself, I guess, is the way I would put it, because it's like when you're not conscious at all of the spiritual part of yourself. I mean, it's just so much bigger than our now moment, like ego identity. And I feel like, oh my gosh, something came up on my screen. Before I was a spiritual being having a human experience, it just, everything felt a lot more bleak, I guess I would say,
I understand that. It's so what I'm hearing is that when we get conscious of who we are as a whole being, then we get a bigger experience of who we are.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So let's bring all of ourselves into this moment, folks, shall we? Because that's what I love to do, is bring all of who I am and all of who you are and all of who the universe represents, like every part of it, right? The animal kingdom and the forests and the creatures and the oceans and rivers and even the DNA of our very beings, right? The selves that we are, the collective genome, if you will, of the planet. Let's bring all of the energies that exist for us to experience as a whole into this moment. So we now ask that the creator of all that is, the one who lives and breathes within all things that are living and have their being in form, we now ask to connect to right now. And we ask all of the beings of light and love and source presence come into this moment. Those include our guardian angels, those include our teachers, those include our shamanic beings of light and love and the earth beings that we work with. We ask all of you now to enter into this space so that we can learn from you, so that we can hear your voice, so that we can feel your presence, so that we can bring our consciousness to you. And we ask all of the crystal beings that live in the earth and those crystal beings that we love to work with that are outside of the earth. Even those beings that have come from other planets and have found themselves into our lives, we thank you for being here. And we now ask that the light beings that bring the language of the soul, we ask you now to come through Pam, the channel, to you, the collective humanity that's listening to this program. Ala tata tara te at et udabatete unbadaite amababade isa. Enunu sanamaneke najanamada isanamati abayetu a. Enunu satanekadabaitu papa esanamamaki enamashishi namaya sanamaye. So simply allow these tones to come through you, this language that is beyond your mind, beyond your understanding, but something that your soul resonates with. We ask that to come into you now. Naza deituda, nada yeti baehu. Nana yesa deunu, anaze nunu yehi, anaye nuneya, nana yehi nana, anaye ne. Okay, we're back. Welcome back. We never know what's going to show up whenever we do these things, but you know that's always perfect for you in this moment. So Joseph, welcome back.
Thank you.
Back. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm honored to be here.
So between last week and this week, last week we talked about a little bit about you and your journey, what's shown up for you so far, what you're here to gift the world with. And one of the things we didn't get to, because the hour goes so fast whenever we have these programs, is the dark night of the soul and what your inner child has to do with that experience for you.
Well said. And like I said, it was interesting because I was getting my thoughts together about this yesterday, knowing we were going to talk about this today. And yeah, it hit me on a deeper level that I feel like what's at the root of the dark night of the soul is awakening to your inner child for the first time. Because it's like, if you need, if you're a person that I mean, let's face it, most of us have had some pretty rough experiences in this world. It's a kind of a rough ride, right? So yeah, where was I going with that? Basically, what led to my first dark night of the soul was like a heart chakra awakening. And the inner child, oftentimes when we haven't talked to them, in years or ever or whatnot, whatever is not resolved for them, they're feeling pretty angry about by that point because they haven't been heard in a long time. So I feel like what happened in my experience was I went through a heart chakra awakening. I had been kind of self-analyzing my life and, getting honest with myself about my relationships and family dynamics and things like that, and had been listening to some heart chakra binaural beats while I was meditating a lot. And so I went through this heart chakra awakening, and what largely came through with that was just this spontaneous release of tears. And I asked myself, what's behind these feelings? And what I found was just ways in which I had been unknowingly not loving or not caring about myself. And of course, when you realize that, it's like, it kind of gets you right in the heart, like, wow, been not being, not aware of this. And then I feel like pretty much within a couple of months of that was when I had my first dark night of the soul experience. And yeah, that's why I felt like I wanted to talk about it, because it sure can be overwhelming the first time you experience it.
Yes, I understand that. So
Yeah,
many of us, as we're awakening, that's a big term, but really what
right.
that means is that we start getting aware that
Conscious, right?
that
Yeah,
we are much more than these physical vessels that go through life, right? And the awakening can happen on many different levels and for different experiences. And as you, the listener, are listening to this program, what we invite you to do is look in your own life, look at your own experiences and go, wow, when did I realize that I was much more than what I was experiencing so far? When did you, the listener, realize that there was more to you than meets the eye, so to speak, or what you thought of yourself or what you thought your life was about? And when we talk about the dark night of the soul, oftentimes it's the time when it's a turning point. It's a moment when we go, oh, okay, something is very different now. Why is something very different? And what does that different thing mean? Right? So that
yes.
moment that you realized that you were much more than you had thought you were, what happened in that first dark night of the soul for you?
Well, basically, the way I would put it was all kinds of ego-based feelings just wanted to come vomiting out. And I was very conscious of this. I was like, I have nothing but really self-centered things to say to anybody, and I knew it. So I went in my room and sat by myself in the dark for like 24, for like a night and a day, and just sat with those feelings. And that's what I was realizing when I wrote that out yesterday in my thoughts. I was like, that was that all those unvalidated feelings from my inner child coming to the forefront for the first time. Boy, howdy. And it was like, I knew I didn't want to say any of the stuff that was going on in my head to anybody. So you sit by yourself and process
I
it.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. And that is a way to process those feelings is by yourself. And some of us, like myself, I was actually in therapy at the time. I had a counselor. And and the first time that I was actually doing some family of origin work. So I was looking at my past. I was looking at my really untapped feelings about my childhood and about my family of origin. And I discovered that the child that I was, which we call the inner child when we're adults, that child was really, really frightened, like very, very frightened, very closed up, very like didn't want to come out and be with anyone and was scared, really, really scared. And so she was about 3 when I first contacted her. And what I discovered is no matter what age we are, when we realize we've started shutting down, we can go back to that moment in time and we can start healing that self simply by our intention. So this is an opportunity if you're curious about what do you mean by inner child work? What are you talking about dark night of the soul? What is that all about? Then get some support. You know, a lot of us are used to doing life alone, and it's okay to do life alone and it's okay to process by yourself. And sometimes it helps to have somebody that you can use as a taproot. So, did you have anyone in your life at that time, Joseph, that you could use as a taproot as you were going through these experiences?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And it was an interesting process. So it was like I went through this heart awakening like late 2014, and I had gotten I had already been working on myself, like been working on myself for years. I kind of came in a bit awake, and then as things went, kind of shut down, and then rediscovered myself. Like, hey, wait, where's that part of myself, right? So and so let's see. where was I at again? So,
So
so like,
here's something I'm going to give you right now, okay?
yes.
When you get stopped, because that happens for me
Mhm.
too, just reach out and
Mm.
grab it and then get to your heart and it'll come back. Okay? Just reach out with your hands. Reach up,
Okay.
say, "Okay, I'm going to grab that thought,
I'm gonna grab that
bring it
thought.
in right back to my heart." There it is. Okay?
So yeah, and so late in 2015, I'd started awakening to my multidimensional self. I had always been working and studying on myself, and that's when I met my twin flame. But so we would work with each other, experiencing past life memories and all kinds of different interesting things like that, or just whatever we were going with, working through in the present, right? But it really didn't go deeper until I met my shaman healer that I studied with. Um, it was like it was like that support helped me bring it to a place where I could re-experience the emotions more fully, if that makes sense. So yeah, it really helps to have somebody to work with. I definitely agree. It didn't go deeper until I worked with somebody.
I got it. I got it. So
Mhm.
here's the thing that I share with you folks pretty much all the time is that there's so much support right now in the world. It's been developing over time.
Yep.
And you, as an awakening soul, wherever you are in your journey, know that whatever's going on for you, you can find support for that particular thing. Okay. If you
That's
don't have it right now in your purview, just ask and intend on receiving it. Okay. And it will show up either in a book or you'll hear a song and you'll realize, wow, there's support right there. Or you'll be talking randomly to someone and you'll get a message. You go, thank you for that message. Awesome. Or somebody will say something like, oh, I know this resource for this thing. And you'll go, I need that right now. Thank you for that information. And so this is what we're talking about when we start awakening, when we start diving deeper into who we are as spirit and form, we will have questions and we will be wondering about what to do next. And so when you allow yourselves to explore possibilities, you will get support and you will get the answers that you're looking for. So let's look at when you connected to this, what you call your inner child.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's more than one
Oh
that
yes.
that we realize is, oh, there's different parts of me. Maybe it's more than one self that
Oh
I
yeah.
was, because we had to play different roles in our family, right?
Yes,
And so we
definitely.
wear different hats, and sometimes we're the comedian, sometimes we're the recluse, sometimes we're the wise one, sometimes we're the afraid one that has to go in a corner. Whatever it is that you experience is perfect for you. And sometimes we grow up a little bit and we go, oh, you know what? My teenager now needs to be healed. My teenager needs more attention. Awesome. Then we go a little further and it's like, oh, you know what? My young adult needs some TLC. So let's give that self some TLC and some healing, right?
Yes. I like where you're going with that.
So why don't you tell everyone about your experience when you realized, oh, I've got this inner child and this inner child is wounded and
Right.
traumatized. What was the process that you went through as you touched base with that inner child and connected?
I mean, the first part of the process is always validating them, because that's where I feel like they're coming from. That wounded feeling was, I never got this feeling validated. And although from your more emotionally mature perspective, you might be like, well, that's not really that big of a deal. To that child, it was everything. Otherwise, it wouldn't have left a scar in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I always feel like that first step is validating them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are the ways that you validate your inner child?
By telling them they were right about everything they felt, you know, and that it's okay to feel that way, and
Excellent.
that they had a good reason to. Um, it's kind of it was like I was talking to somebody the other day, and you know, where am I coming from with this? It's like if you haven't really been in touch with your inner child yet, and you might, you know, it's like sometimes we're numb to these things, we're, you know, not conscious to them or whatnot. And it was like the way I put it to somebody was, imagine watching your child self going through the thing that was traumatic for you, and would it would you feel it was okay if it was your own child, or you know, if you were standing there next to them, what would you say to them?
Mm-hmm.
Say to
Mm-hmm.
them, hey, let's get you out of here right now, this isn't okay. And so a lot of it for me it would be visualization work at first, taking them to do what they really wanted to go do, you know, like, what did you want to do in that moment? Let's go do that. Let's, you know, rewrite this emotionally, basically.
That's great. That's awesome. So something that just occurred to me is that if you're a person that's listening to this and saying, you know what, I don't remember anything about my childhood, and I know something happened, but I don't really know what it is, it's okay. All right.
Yeah,
We're not expecting that you're supposed to know exactly what we're talking about.
right.
What is really available is to be in the inquiry of it. An inquiry is a question with multiple answers. So if you allow yourself to be in that moment of, okay, so I don't remember if I have an inner child. Do I have an inner child? If I had an inner child, what would that inner child be? What would they say? What would they feel? What would they be doing? What was, what would they be experiencing, right? I don't remember my childhood. So, I remember that these things around my childhood happened. Like maybe you know that your parents divorced. Maybe you know that someone died in your family. Maybe you know that, an animal passed and then something happened and something got shut off in you as a person, right? That's another cue. So there are cues everywhere. There are clues everywhere. This is like a discovery
Yes,
of
it
you as a
is.
person, right? That's what we do here on the Empower Me show is we point to an area in you, in your life that might want a little bit more attention, right?
Yeah,
So there is no right and wrong here. This is simply looking and seeing what's there.
well said.
Yeah. So let's go to this discovery point of when we talk about the dark night and shadow work. What is it that we're really talking about in your own life? What does that mean for you, Joseph?
Oh, in my personal life,
Yeah.
um ways in which we judge ourselves,
Mm.
basically. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you say that. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Ways in which I've judged myself unknowingly.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what happens when you judge yourself? What happens internally?
Your self-worth gets reduced. It shrinks you. Ah, one of the clues I would use for that was I would look out for moments when I'm judging other people and go, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's a way I might feel about myself too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That self-honesty, like, would I say that to that person? Would I say that to myself? So why do I feel like saying that?
Yeah, yeah. Because what happens when you judge someone else? What happens inside of you? What happens
Oh,
internally?
um, Well, I mean, it's not usually a happy feeling, that's for sure. You know?
Yeah. I know for myself, when I judge someone else, I usually am judging someone else with blame. Blame
Yeah.
and guilt.
Ah,
Those two
yes.
things go hand in
Well
hand
said.
in the world of judgment for me. And what happens for myself when I'm judging out here, I'm not
Right.
taking any responsibility over here. It's like I
Right.
am, then my superiority shows up, my better than persona
Mhm.
shows up, my whatever that world is inside of myself, I can do it better
Right. It's
than you.
everything's out here.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't have
Everything
that
out here is
problem.
wrong.
You got that problem going on. I'm so sorry for that for you, but I'm better than that, right?
Right.
That whole world is
Right.
such a separation.
It's interesting because what I felt like mentioning today was the place that I'm at right now, the experience I was having this week, because it's like, well, part of what I wanted to say was the dark night of the soul energy does get easier if you're going through it at the moment. And I'm at this place where it's like, it hasn't, I've had some rough moments this week, and I found myself in a celebratory state because I didn't feel like blaming the outside situation, nor did I feel resentful or blameful towards myself, even though I owned it.
Wow.
It's like I could own it, but I don't feel like blaming myself or beating myself up about it. And so that's the
Woohoo!
place that the dark that this stuff leads to. So if you're going through it, celebrate.
That's
It's like,
great. That's so
no
awesome.
harm.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can definitely, when we're in the dark night of the soul, oftentimes it's triggered because of an event, right? An event that happens. So
Most
for
definitely.
myself, I think the first time that I went through a dark night, that I even heard that term dark night, was when I started attending spiritual gatherings and started doing therapy, but I didn't hear it in the therapy rooms. I didn't hear it there in the encounter groups. I heard it in the spiritual circles that I was in. And someone mentioned this dark night of the soul. And I went, huh, what is that? Oh, but I felt it. I felt it in myself, like something, my light had dimmed. That's the best way I can describe that. My light had dimmed, and darkness and depression and this
Yes.
anger, this rage that I hadn't tapped into yet showed up. And I was like, what in the heck am I supposed to do with that?
Right.
Right? And everything I thought about myself felt like a lie in that moment. And so from that point, luckily I was in a group and I was able to tap into the support structure there to be able to talk about, wow, I don't know what's happening, but I feel really, really sad. And I feel really angry and I feel really broken. I
Yep.
don't know what to do with this. And so what happened is that I started getting help from others and healing that part of me that felt so lost. And so
Right.
if you're a person that feels that, then allow yourself to explore why. You know,
Yes.
I'm a big journaler, and I know you are too,
Oh,
Joseph.
yes.
Where have you found, like, where have you found a breakthrough in who you are by writing?
I mean, it's interesting. I wrote until I could no more, and so I found breakthroughs all the time with it. It got to be a daily check-in routine.
Mm.
Starting out talking with my inner child. Okay, I call him Joey because I went by that for years, and so it was like, okay, Joey, how are we feeling today? And just let him take the reins, when you're first waking in the morning.
I love that.
And
I love that. That's great.
yeah, and so of course, sometimes what comes up would be something emotional or intense, right? And then helping them through that, through the writing, it got to the point where I started having, I had different handwriting for him and my now self, And sometimes my higher self or guides would chime in during the conversation while I'm writing. So it really
Mhm.
was just a helpful tool for me to, yeah, to bring my support there and everything,
That's
to
great.
bring them together around him.
That's great. That's awesome. So there's a tool, folks. We always talk about tools, tips, and techniques for you to
Right.
use to access that inner child of you, right? So even if you don't know if I have one, do I have an inner child? Are they talking about my young self? What are they talking about?
Ah,
Just try it out. Just try it out.
mhm. A tool I would suggest for that really helped me was it's like basically if something triggered me, my inner child would take the lead. You know, so basically it's like if you can be conscious that you're triggered, it's likely that you might be coming from your inner child at that moment. Or like that's when I
Mhm.
feel like the inner child comes forth, which was really hard for me at first as a parent, but it was so helpful to become conscious of, because it was like when my children would, the energy rises up and you get triggered by something they might be doing, and then it was like I would drop down right to that child level too, and it's like, wait, I can't be coming from here when I'm dealing with them. So it's really helpful to become conscious of that, you know. It's like a child arguing with a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I think often that happens. And I
Right.
think often we find out once we become parents that, oh, you know what? I've got some unhealed parts of myself. And here I'm
Right.
trying to
It's so
parent this
it's a
kid, and
beautiful
I don't
thing.
know what I'm doing. And now we're just battling with each other, right? And
Right.
so the more aware that we can be, that you can be the listener, as well as I can be the host, and
Right.
Joseph can be the guest, with, oh, what is happening? Who's showing up to the table? Who's showing up to the party here?
And I feel like, right. So it's like when you're conscious that you're triggered, it's like oftentimes it's your inner child.
That's a good thing to remember. Yes. Well, the other part of that is if you're in a relationship with anybody, a love relationship with
Right.
anyone, or even with your own parents or with
Yep.
a friend, and you find yourself battling with them and arguing with them, chances are it's an unhealed part of yourself that is doing that, because it has to be in survival, right? That's our
Yes.
ego selves wanting to be in charge.
Right.
And so when we realize, you know what? I have an ego self that is really wanting to be in charge here. And what if I were to connect in with my spiritual self, my higher self,
Mhm.
my multidimensional self, my my light being that was within me? What if I were to connect to that and ask it to show up? Even connecting in with your guides. Often, if I'm unsure, I will ask my guides to talk through me to you so that I can get out of the way.
That's
That's
powerful.
another
Yeah.
way to heal yourself. Just a thought.
Yes, that's beautiful. I like that. Mm.
So let's take a breath. Whew. Any of you, I'm kind of sensing that some of you might be triggered by our conversation, and that's okay. It's okay wherever you're at. It's okay
Mhm.
to be exactly who you are and where you are in your own life. And if this feels like, you know what, I don't even know what you're talking about, that's okay too, because you're perfect the way you are. You're perfect, whole, and complete, exactly as you are and exactly as you're not. So allow yourself to just be with what's so right this minute. Again, nice deep breath in and let it all go. Excellent. All right. So
Hmm.
let's see. So dark night of the soul, inner child work, really working with the shadow selves. What is the shadow? When we look at the shadow, what is that self that you connect to when I say shadow self, Joseph?
It's interesting. There's a lot in there. It's our subconscious programs. But I feel like it's a part of ourself that when we get to a place of wholeness, it gives us a resilience that we might not have always been aware of. I feel like it's greatly misunderstood a lot because, like everything, how would I say? Like everything has a positive and negative side. It's like there's a positive and negative side to the quote unquote negative, and a positive and negative side to the quote unquote positive. And
Okay.
so yeah.
All right.
It is kind of a tricky subject in a way, but basically I would say it's our subconscious programming, and a lot of that happens like up to the age of 7. So that's where the inner child kind of ties right back into it.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, a lot of us up to age 7 is kind of what the psychologist would say is our forming of our personality, if you
Yeah.
will, like kind of our base personality. And then from there, we evolve into the beings that we are as adults. And the other part of that whole equation, because I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychiatrist, I never will be, not in this lifetime, but my understanding of that world of the shadow, if you will, is those parts of myself that I'm not aware of. Those parts of myself that tend to creep in when I'm not aware of who's showing up. Those parts of me that I might have forgotten about, those parts of me that I try and ignore, the parts of me that I don't want you to know about, those parts of me that are angry or sad or afraid, that I've discounted.
Your vulnerability. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, our vulnerable sides.
Right.
Those parts of us who don't want you to know that we don't have our stuff together.
Yes.
Right? So as a radio show host, one of my biggest fears when I first started was, oh, I cannot tell them anything about my personal life. No. It's all about you, right? Well,
Right.
guess what? If I don't share myself with you, then I don't get to come and be with you.
Right.
So I made a decision pretty early on in doing this program that I wanted to be with you in this show so that you can relate to me on the same level, right? So I'm not up here and you're down here. You're not up here and I'm not down here. We can come together like this with all of the considerations of who we are. And we can meet together in the same space. Again, take a nice deep breath.
That's a beautiful feeling.
So let's go into our bodies right now. Let's just go right into where you live inside of your body system. I say body system because there's so many different systems that are working together to keep you alive. So let's connect in with this whole body system. And you can use your hands for this and connect in wherever your hands want to land. And ask your whole body system, where is my inner child wanting to express itself right now? Just ask, where does my inner child want to express itself right now? And then as you receive that information, it might not be verbal. You might hear it. You might sense it. You might feel it. You might know it. You might question it. That's okay. Just whatever comes up first. Say, I'm going to look there, or I'm going to check in. For me, I automatically put my hands right on my solar plexus, in the trunk of me, and right on my heart. And I check in. Where are you? And mine likes to kind of be right in this whole trunk area for me. That's where it likes to live. It likes to go back and forth between my heart and my solar plexus. The solar plexus is the power center of the self. So that's where my inner child likes to be. And I will check in. If my heart is racing, or I'm breathing shallowly, or my eyesight starts going wonky, that's a really good sign for me that my inner child needs some attention. So if that, you'll know your signs if you keep checking in with that. So just go ahead and check in wherever you feel that inner child is, and then ask it to check in with you and see how it's doing. And what's the first thing that comes up? What's the first thing that comes up, Joseph, as you check in with your inner child right now?
The first thing that came up was a part of my inner child that was quite aware of his radiance. Like, yeah, before he built, got a lot of dross from, his experience in 3D life yet, right? Yeah. And the second thing that came up, though, was a part of my inner child. He felt a lot physically unwell a lot as a child, and I've been going through some really bad allergy stuff this week, so that came up.
Okay.
Part of me that's like, am I ever going to feel good in my physical body? Is this
okay?
Is this all it's cracked up to? Kind of feeling,
I got it. So can I speak to that a little bit?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, our physical bodies are actually our God self, if you will. So I believe, and you can take this on if you want to, whoever's listening, you don't have to, but I believe that as soul, we chose to come into form. Okay. That's my belief. You can take it on or not. It's up to you. But I believe that as soul, we drop into a physical body. We say, I'm going to be physical this time. I'm going to be a human. And so we come into a physical body, and oftentimes we experience this restriction, I don't quite have enough room. I don't know, because we're used to being able to be everywhere all the time. And then we shrink into this body like, how do I function now? I don't know what to do. And our bodies are like, they're not necessarily these expansive, yes, I'm ready to go bodies. They're a little sickly. They're a little deprived. They're a little have some things that don't necessarily look right to our eyes, all of those things. And as spirits in physical form, we can actually affect whatever's going on with us physically. And I have started learning about that and trusting that as I've been a massage therapist. I was a massage therapist for a long time, and realized, my thoughts, my emotions, my speaking actually affects my physical body, right? So in this moment of, okay, I'm dealing with allergies. I'm feeling nauseous. I'm having diarrhea. I'm angry. I got this stuff happening. In that moment of the allergies that you're experiencing, speak to your body that's having these reactions and ask your body what it needs. So go ahead and just do that. And any of you who are listening that are having any body sensations, you can do this exercise right now with us. Look in your body and ask it, what do you need right now? And if you have pen and paper to write it down, that would be a really great exercise for you to listen and write it down. And then you can let us know, Joseph, if you'd like to share.
The main two things I heard, well, of course, the first thing was water. I need lots of water. And the other thing, I find this poignant. He's like, I just needed you to care. Good,
Nice.
you know? Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So I'm working with this whole idea, and actually there's before the way of doing this, I don't even know what to call it. This stuff that they do. Like I coined the phrase body talk before it even became a thing. Now body talk is trademarked by someone who has a process now that they use. I don't even know what the process is, but when I talk about body talk, it is that. It's checking in with the body, asking it what it needs. It might be a physical thing that's happening that is needing some attention. It might just be, I just want to find out what's happening. What's going on? So whatever the way is that you connect is great. But your body has wisdom. And so that's what I recommend you start doing, is having a dialogue with those parts of you, whether they're physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever they are. Start having conversation and you will evolve. You will get healthy. It will show up that way for you. And it will because you say so. Your intention means a lot. So.
Yeah. I have found, like, on this healing path, that it's taken some time, but that's what I was kind of touching on in the beginning, is my faith in that has grown. And so, I guess for the listeners out there, yeah, be patient with yourself. If you feel like this path appeals to you and you're on it, and it's, it can take a while before that can, that faith develops, I guess. Like I found myself at one point in the middle of it where I had left one shore and I wasn't to the other shore, and you feel kind of lost in the middle of it. And it's like, I guess that's one of my messages for everybody right now, is it does get better. It really does.
It really does. It really does. And when you're in the middle of the sea and you don't necessarily have a boat, you might look for a life raft. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Where's your life raft? Where is it? If you feel like it's not there, it might show up as a piece of wood. It might show up as it might show up as a dolphin. It might show up as a whale. It might show up as buoyancy, like, oh, all of a sudden I can float. Look at that. Okay. Let me go on my back and let the waves, let the water hold me. Let my creator, even if I don't trust that being yet, I'm going to trust that there's a creator that loves me and is going to help me to navigate how to get to shore.
Well said. Right. Because it was, I still remember, like, the first really poignant time that I had something physical healing me by working on it spiritually. And then I remember the time period after that where it was like you'd start to second guess it. And it was like every time that doubt would creep back in, the physical, like whatever it was, would start to come back. And then every time I would re-bolster my faith in, no, you went through this experience, I would feel it release again. And
That's great. That's great. Another caveat that I want to share with you folks, we have still a few minutes left of this hour. It's gone really fast again, which is awesome. But something I really want to let you know is that I am not saying don't use a medical profession. Okay. I'm not saying that at all. Absolutely. If you've got a condition that requires a medical attention, then pay attention to that.
Sometimes
that's important,
you're being guided,
right?
Right.
And we as human beings have ample support everywhere. Nature is a wonderful provider for helping us heal, helping us to navigate life, helping us to get the food and the nourishment that we require, right? It's available to us. We're simply talking about a little up-leveling your consciousness to what other support can I get? How can I expand to include as many different support structures as possible?
Right.
One of the things that I also wanted to touch base with before we end is you use movement inside of yourself to express who you are as a soul, but also to get movement in your life. So what is that practice? Is that Kung Fu that you use? Is it Qigong? What is it exactly that you do?
Well, I have a particular meditation I teach, but yeah, me personally, I've used different Qigong methods, and there's a Kung Fu that I teach that kind of encompasses universal truth, like through the movement. And so I found that a really interesting experience because it kind of put it into my body without words. It's like you're experiencing it, right, without having to put words on it. You're just feeling, so it's like kind of cuts through the veil, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And do you have a link that you can provide us for seeing that?
Well, it's basically my YouTube channel. There's a whole bunches of videos on there.
Oh, good. Okay. Awesome.
Different creative projects. So
Great.
that would be just my channel, all lowercase, Joe D Rock 2.
All right.
OEDROCK 2.
That's perfect. Awesome. All right. So any of you who didn't quite get that verbally, I will, you can text me and I will get that to you. And if you go on YouTube and look up Joe Rock, his Joe Rock channel, it will show up. And you can then hear and see Joe's YouTube channel with the different movement that he does. And movement is great to actually move energy. It's awesome. So any of you who can do that would be really, really, really a way to move yourself forward.
Yes. I mean, it's funny. You've kind of touched on this here in general, but I feel like source, spirit, God, whatever term you want to use, expresses itself in our lives in so many ways. Sometimes it can be through a medical doctor. Sometimes it can be through movement, through light language. I feel like there's so many layers to that. Like light language, sometimes I feel like that can be expressed through movement.
Yes, absolutely.
Channeling sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Now you have had some openings with light language since I know you, haven't you?
Yes, and those are ones that it's funny I'm growing into, but that's a thing I still feel pretty vulnerable with too. It's like in private experiences. Yes.
I understand that. I understand that. So we come, we come into our gifts in different ways. And so with this program, I always want to honor whoever's going through any kind of opening with their spiritual gifts and really expressing them in the world. They've been given to you for your own purpose, as well as sharing them with other people. So if you want any kind of support around that opening, it's one of the things that I love to do is to support you in your opening and your transformation journey. So you can connect with me at brightbutterflynetwork.com, just like it sounds, BRIGHTBUTTERFLY. Network is NETWORK.com, COM. And Joseph can be found at, I never remember your email. What's your email?
I've got two. I've got rockskungfu.rock@gmail.com and sourceflamereiki@gmail.com.
Okay, great. So yes, if you want a great Reiki session, you're doing it all by distance, right? At this
I'll
point?
do it. It just depends on if you're local. If you're local, I do house calls. I have people come to my house, but yes, a lot of people are at a distance. So
Okay, awesome. So yes, Reiki is an amazing way to receive the universal energy flow that is ready for you and you can use that for your own healing. If you want a guide in what is this inner child work? What is this dark night of the soul
Great.
stuff? Contact Joseph and he can assist you with his own journey and a little bit of help with, hey, try this, try that, try the other thing, right?
Right.
Anything else that you would say, I can do that and help other
Yeah,
people with?
that's what I kind of do. Is it's like when I do Reiki work with people, it always comes with like a counseling talking session afterwards, in which I tried to help you find your keys of, I help walk people back to their keys. That's what I call it. I mean, I do healing work with people with their pets, get messages from your guides, all kinds of shamanic things,
That's great.
basically.
That's awesome. Well, Joseph, I am so happy once again that you came on the show. And as we wind up our hour together, that always goes so fast, anything specific that you can offer once again to the listeners for inspiration, for healing, for just overall help that you would like to share?
Well, I guess at the moment, what I would want is to second what you said right now. We're in just such a beautiful time where so much is available. I grew up feeling so out of place in this world, and it's like if you're going through any of these things right now, just to know that there's so much available right now. It's just reach out because the universe is wanting to reach back.
Absolutely. Amen to that. So do that. Reach out and touch someone's hand.
Whoever it
As
is,
the
whatever
song goes.
resonates with your soul, right?
Yes. Yes. He's got the whole world in their hands. Right?
Yes.
So we can grab onto each other and hold each other close and know that we are loved and spread the love all over the world. That's my golden ticket for you today. So spread the love, know that you're loved, and reach out and receive it. Many blessings to you all, and know that you can connect to us anytime and anywhere. So be well and know that your life is up to you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empower Me Show with Pam Bright on Transformation Talk Radio. Tune in to learn more about living a fully empowered life. Remember that your life is up to you, and you can choose the spiritual path you are on. There is spiritual energy and wisdom in everything and everyone around you. Listen carefully for what the universe is trying to tell you in every moment. You are already being guided along your journey. Call upon your spirit guides anytime you need help with anything. Know that you are safe in every moment, even if it seems that you are not. For more information about Pam Bright, visit brightbutterflyenterprises.com or email theempowermeshow@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope to see you next week.